The U.S. sends Coast Guard to Indo-Pacific to repel and fight China illegal fishing vessels. Washington. The U.S. will ramp up its maritime presence in the Indo-Pacific to check China's rise, sending its national Coast Guard across the ocean to battle the ever-growing challenge of illegal fishing. In the midst of the war in Ukraine, U.S. President Joe Biden is hosting the first-ever Washington Summit of leaders from the Association of Southeast Asian Nations to assert his administration's commitment to the region. This reflects, I think, recognition on the part of the administration that we need to step up our game in Southeast Asia, said an administration official. The summit began on Thursday night, U.S. time, with a White House dinner with 9 ASEAN members: Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Philippines, Vietnam, and Brunei. One other ASEAN nation, Myanmar, was not invited but instead will be represented by an empty chair to symbolize U.S. censure over the junta's bloody 2021 coup. As part of the talks, the U.S. will announce about $150 million $218 million in new initiatives for the region, ranging from clean energy infrastructure and education partnerships to conservation programs and global health. About $60 million will also be committed to counter emerging maritime security threats. China has a vast fishing fleet in the Pacific which has been known to violate exclusive economic zones and cause environmental damage and losses for some countries. The U.S. Coast Guard will send a ship to the region to conduct training missions and take part in joint maritime security operations. The transfer of decommissioned Coast Guard ships to Southeast Asian countries will also be prioritized to promote a free and open Pacific. Maritime law enforcement agencies will also be bolstered by placing a training team in the region for the first time, with additional dedicated support from U.S.-based trainers. The U.S. Coast Guard would help countries tackle illegal fishing, which Biden's Indo-Pacific coordinator Kurt Campbell this week warned was one of the biggest challenges in the region, and provide additional assistance to prevent forced labor in the industry. The war in Ukraine will be a key feature of discussions, along with pandemic, climate change, and the crisis in Myanmar, where the army ousted the elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi in February 2021. We are in discussions about the best way to represent what has transpired in Burma and how to represent that in the meeting, a senior official said. Washington's concerns about the threat of Russia and China, two countries Biden often criticizes for undercutting democracy, could also be sensitive topics during the summit. ASEAN nations such as Laos and Vietnam, for instance, have a one-party rule, while Cambodia has been under the rule of authoritarian strongman Hun Sen for more than 3 decades. Some Southeast Asian nations have also been fairly subdued in their response to Russia's invasion. Nonetheless, the talks represent the first time in its 45-year history that ASEAN leaders have been hosted in Washington. The summit comes as the Biden administration prepares to unveil its new Indo-Pacific economic strategy, which is partly designed to counter the growing threat of Beijing. It also takes place weeks after a contentious deal was inked between China and Solomon Islands, which some fear could result in China establishing a military foothold in the Pacific nation less than 2,000 kilometers off Australia's east coast. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison has said that any attempt to establish a military base on the island would constitute a geostrategic red line.